I believe your greatest creativity can flow from the greatest disruptions of your life. A disruption is any kind of setback that interrupts our lives and our moving forward. So, right, 2020 has been a year of disruption. A pandemic, a shutdown, recession, plus who knows what other personal disruptions you have experienced. In my book, The Next Level Entrepreneur, I have a chapter titled Creativity from Disruption. I write, disruption is inevitable. Throughout our lifetimes, all of us will encounter disruptions of some kind. Loss of loved ones, disease, divorce, violence, war, natural disasters, or man-made disasters are just a few of the countless life-altering disruptions mortals experience on this earth. So what do we do? Well, I go on in my book to say, each of us has a choice as to how we will allow disruption to affect us. Will we be bitter? Will we forgive? Will we be angry? Will we love? How will we respond? Whether we believe it or not, we actually do have a choice. Most of us would agree that one could respond positively or negatively. But I believe there's another kind of response, a creative response. That's from page 65 of The Next Level Entrepreneur. You see, not all disruptions are the same. Some are worse than others, but all disruptions have one thing in common. In any disruption, we lose reference points, which causes a certain amount of disorientation. Those are the familiar things in our lives that we used to get our bearings from every day, which we probably don't even think twice about. For example, we might take the same route to work or school each day, and then one day the road's closed. Instant disorientation from the disruption. Now, how do we get there? I want to illustrate 3 levels of disruption. And typically we don't choose disruption, they choose us. However, in this first level, the gentle disruption, is one we may actually choose, like going on some adventurous trip. It can be as simple as a multi-day driving trip to whitewater rafting or even traveling to some faraway land. In most cases, if it begins to feel too disruptive, well, all we have to do is simply end the trip and return home. I have a friend who usually comes home early from most trips that last over a week. Why? Well, it's too disruptive and he wants to return home to the familiar, even if the familiar is full of problems. But even for him, those moments of unpredictability, there's an undercurrent of exhilaration that releases creativity. He always comes back with ideas. You know what I'm talking about. We all experience all kinds of ideas of what's possible when we leave the familiar. Think of gentle disruptions this way. Living your life is analogous to living in your house. It's familiar. There are rooms and walls and doors which frame the house and direct where you can go and not go, similar to the various parameters of our day-to-day living, right? A gentle disruption is like stepping outside of the context of your daily life. It's like leaving your house and going out to the backyard to pitch a tent or cook out. You will feel some degree of disruption or predictability. Regardless of the reason, you might have chosen to camp out. Perhaps there's construction or you just want to be outside. Whatever the reason, it's disrupting to sleep and cook outside. But watch this. Even though you're outside of your house, you're still living in reference to the context of your house. The familiar trees in the yard and your property outlined by fences. Plus, you can end the disruption by simply going back inside. For example, you forget something, you just go get it. Or you want to sleep in your comfy bed. That's a gentle disruption. Only a few lesser reference points are lost, and there's a little creativity. Let's kick it up a notch to what I call harsher disruptions. Now imagine high winds or even a tornado blowing through your neighborhood and flattening all the fences, ripping off a few roofs, uprooting trees. Well, as you emerge from your house, the devastation is disorienting because what was once there is now gone. The boundaries of fences and the familiarity of certain trees have vanished. However, there is still a reference point, your home, and it's oriented to the other homes in your neighborhood, even though some of the trees are gone or the property lines now all blend together. Harsher disruptions can foster greater creativity, as in this case, there's an opportunity to redesign the look and feel of the neighborhood, even though the homes remain. In other words, as more reference points are disrupted, the greater the opportunity for more creativity, because there is less context to confine our imagination. Well, now we've got to go to the most difficult of all, colossal disruptions. For the sake of comparison, let us say that a massive tornado, an F5 with 300 plus mile per hour winds, sweeps through your entire town, obliterating not only your home, but the entire neighborhood, most of the town. Nothing is recognizable. Even whole streets are either ripped up or covered by dirt and debris. Even though no life was lost, this is devastation on an unimaginable scale. Any possible reference points are gone, except for maybe map coordinates that you can use to identify where the town was once located, or a debris field spread over many miles. This actually occurred on May 27, 1997. An off-the-charts F5 tornado with sustained winds well in excess of 200 miles per hour and gusts over 300 miles per hour wiped Gerald, Texas off the map. The destruction was unfathomable. There are a few pictures, but this one illustrates the depth of the devastation. And look at that picture. Do you notice what's missing? Debris. There's no debris. The tornado swept it all away. The tornado even ripped flooring off of the foundations, like linoleum that's glued on. This, my friends, is an example of colossal disruption. They offer us the opportunity for the greatest creativity because there are few to no reference points. However, the greater the disruption, the more difficult it is to choose a creative response, as it's human nature to succumb to such extreme, heartbreaking loss and devastation. One must battle to create after any disruption of any size. And so, the greater the disruption, the greater the battle. We'll develop this more in the next video, but I want to leave you with one thought, something to try and experiment with over the next week. You've heard the phrase thinking outside the box as a way of describing creative thinking. But thinking outside the box is like, well, camping in your backyard with your house right there as a reference point. The box represents reference points that you're thinking outside of, which in fact limits your creativity. But the history of this phrase is fascinating because it's sourced in a story of no reference points, colossal disruption. In the meantime, try this experiment. Ask yourself, what box? In other words, go way beyond thinking outside the box to thinking with no box, no reference points. Now begin creating solutions and strategies without any restraints. And remember, I'm always available for a quick chat. Just click the link below and set up a free call with me. I'd love to hear your ideas. So leave some comments below and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Ring the bell, notifications, and all that jazz so you don't miss the next video. In the meantime, I want you to live truly free.